channel, and what do we have here today? A treat for you. So today what we're going to do is do some repivoting. So I've got this box of stuff from a gentleman in Vancouver, Canada. Very well packaged, I must say. And what it is a fourth wheel. A fourth wheel. Let's switch to the fourth wheel video. So I'm putting a little bit of light on the situation here. Pardon the sense of humor. But what he shipped me here was a fourth wheel for a Hamilton watch, pocket watch actually. And then he shipped me, I'll put that right down here so you can see that with the second camera. And then he shipped me the plates, which I kind of asked for because the plates are needed to actually fit in the wheel after it's been repivoted. And then I will return this to the gentleman and he will reassemble this. So these are the plates here. You just move that aside. And I asked if he include the plate screws as well. So I think I've got maybe all the screws. I can only see 2 screws here, and a plate like this would normally have 3. So he's missing this screw right here, so which would be part of it. But this screw may also be required, or actually, pardon me, he's missing a screw, I believe, right here. So that screw is missing, but the 2 screws should be good enough to determine whether there's a good side shake on that plate and good end shake as well. And then he also included, see if I can find that, the previous pivot. There it is there. Can you see it's facing you? That's the previous pivot. And I probably won't need to use that, but thank you very much for including this. So that's the previous pivot. So if I just remove this wheel here for a second, get out the old C1A1 tweezers, and let me see how this is screwed on. Look at this. This is some pretty good packaging there, mister. So here is the wheel. I'm just going to put this down right there for a second, and like I always say in these videos, move stuff out of the way so it doesn't end up on your arm or anywhere else. So there you go. I had to switch to my very nice glasses here because I was using my reading glasses, but this is again, I keep repeating, this is an Airy loop, A-R-Y loop. Get the large size or extra large size so you can fit it around your glasses. And as well, I have a ×3 on the bottom of these glasses, and the top part is reading and computers. And so that affords me watchmaking as well as computer work and stuff. So, but I leave this Airy loop on all the time. So let me just get down and dirty. So here is the device. So there it is there. I'm going to show you this with the back of my hand so we can see it. So there it is there. And as you can see, the pivot has fallen off the shaft on the top. The bottom one is where the pinion is still there, and I am going to have to grab that pinion with a lathe collet to spin that in the lathe in order to actually drill that shaft. So, and if I'm looking at that shaft really closely, let me see if I can get a close up here. It doesn't look like it is. It looks like it tapers ever so slightly. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. With any luck, this shaft was made out of one piece of material, so I don't have to concern myself with drilling out a piece of steel that was already in that. So, and as you can see, the end of this shaft, that's where the pivot broke off, and I'm going to, not Tom broke off, it broke off for you people that love my humor. So I'm going to have to flatten that just slightly. I don't want to flatten it too much because then I'm losing my end shake on there, so which would cause a bigger problem. So it depends on if I can center this without a problem, no problem. If I'm drilling this out and I'm having issues drilling it out, then that's a problem. I told the gentleman that I would try. So it's a Yoda. Yoda would say, there is no try. There is do and do not. something like that. So I'm going to try and see what I can do here. So I've got to set up my lathe here and have a really close look at the end of that, so I can make sure that I can actually drill this out and there hasn't been a pivot put in there already. I'm not sure whether he tried to do some drilling here successfully or unsuccessfully, don't know. But we'll see then whether that's the situation. There you go. What am I wearing here today? I'm wearing a Hamilton GMT. What a beautiful, beautiful watch. I think this is the GMT2 by Hamilton. And it has a kangaroo leather strap on it, which is just gorgeous. I love the strap. And then I've got the Hamilton movement in here. And again, this movement, it's a 21 jewel watch, it says. 21 jewel Swiss switch. But this movement is the H32 6250, as you can see on the side. And you can go down to 20 bars. I love how they do bars, right? And what is 20 bars? Let me see. 20 bars, I think, is 200 feet, something like that. So it's not meant to be a dive watch. And the model number, it says movement here. Maybe that's the movement number, 2893-2, because it has a little picture of a movement. So probably the movement number, and then it is a sapphire crystal and Swiss made. Yeah, I think the brand is the H32, or the part number H32 6250. So beautiful, beautiful watch. And if I were to take a cloth and clean off Mr. Gumbo here, because there's lots of arm stuff on there, just clean that off nicely, and let's have a look at it now. That's a heck of a lot better. And I'm going to cough in 2 seconds. So let me just turn this video off. There it is. So that's a gorgeous, gorgeous piece. I highly recommend this. So here I set myself up to repivot the fourth wheel here. I left this in the video because I worked for a full day on this, and I did manage to drill out the shaft, and I did manage to taper down another piece of blued steel to repivot. The problem I had was when the blued steel was punched in, it went in somehow, it went in at an angle. As well, I had a hard time trying to drill out this shaft. I didn't get it drilled out as deep as I wanted to drill it out, as it seemed to just not want to drill. So I've never had a problem like that before, but this time I did. So at the end of the day, I took the wheel just like it is, with the shaft, the pivot put in there, and the pivot was crooked. And when I went to go straighten up that pivot, I decided I'd try to grab it with a pair of pliers and just straighten it up. I didn't know whether that would work or not. I kind of suspected that would not work. It's never good to grab anything with pliers, by the way, in watchmaking. So it snapped the shaft off right at the wheel. Now, that shaft is not supporting the wheel at all, so that's a good thing. And I had to go to a plan B to replace the shaft with a pivot. So the remainder a pivoted shaft. So the remainder of the video is me actually drilling another hole right through the pinion. Here I'm just setting it up for my inevitable failure. so anyway, I ended up doing it the right way, and got myself a wheel that worked. And we'll talk about that a little later. So thanks for watching my videos. All right, out there in YouTube land, it's JD here. This is like the morning of day 2 of trying to get this thing done. The only problem I have in this whole thing is that the pivot is at a bit of an angle, and I'm not sure how that happened or what the technique might be to straighten this up. I could try tapping it on a block to straighten it up, but I'm not sure if I want to do that. So I'm going to have a look at that, and when I knocked it in, it went in, as you can see, at just a bit of an angle. I'm not sure if that's a problem or not. I could try bending it straight, but I think bending it might crack the actual shaft that it's in. So the other option here is that the pivot itself is so small that I've got to create that it might take the bend off of it. So it might not be a problem after I've shaved it down. So we'll see what I do, but I first have to put the part back into the collet. There we go. I'll do that, spin it, see how it behaves. I just grab this. Is that going to tighten up for me or what? Yeah, that could be an issue. Don't know. Do not know. And just use your finger here to see if there's enough friction on this. You don't want to squeeze that pinion on the other side too much, because that would cause other issues. Yeah, as I look at it spinning, it's kind of warbling, right? I'm not sure if there's a fix for doing that. If I can hold something against it and push as I'm spinning it, would that straighten it up? I'll try a couple of techniques here to do that. So at the end of the day, the part ended up breaking right at the shaft. Now I don't know if there's any way of fixing this wheel. So the continuing saga continues. So I tried to straighten the pivot out on the shaft, and the whole damn shaft broke off. Let me see if I can show you that. There we go. The whole thing broke off, which is not good. So now the plan is to drill right through the wheel and the pinion, and then put a piece of blued steel of this nature all the way through, creating a new shaft, and then grave that shaft down to the right size. So this is another experiment in trying to recover this wonderful wheel. I also need to go to a different lathe because I realized that that was flat, and I just can't use this now to do this job. So I have to go to a lathe with a tailstock has got a Collett Holdings tailstock. So we're going to switch lathes here. So I've got a different lathe in here. I think this is perhaps a Bowley lathe. Let me have a look here. It is no, it's a Lennon. It's a Lennon lathe. So let me put this gear back in the collet here. Come on, get in there. And I'll tighten that up just a little bit. So it's tightened a bit, loosen that a bit. I want to spin it to see if this is spinning true. I haven't run this lathe in a little while, so we'll see how well that works. Look down in the center, and I want to make sure that center part is spinning true. Right there. Not too bad, except could need a little help here. A little bit of help. A little bit of help. Alright, just to get it spinning true here, I've got to just loosen it up just a bit and then ride a piece of pegwood on the inside here. So. Loosen it up just a bit more, just a tad, and then ride that piece of pegwood on the inside again. That's going to get that centered. That's pretty good there. I'm going to tighten that up so it doesn't go anywhere, and then get the drill. I'm going to use this one here, the brown drill. I need to get the collet that'll fit this drill, and then put that into my tailstock here. All right, so let's get that set up now, And it takes a 33 collet, so I'll put that collet into the tailstock here, and I should take the drill out when I'm doing this, but what the heck, right? You see, just rotate that until it fits and take the drill out, so I can do that without breaking the bit. Come on, there you go. There you go. There's that collet in there, and then spin that around. That's the full look at my tailstock there, and it's a micrometer on the end here, but I'm not going to bother using that today. So I just want it to be able to hold the drill nice and tight, so I can drill it. Now the other thing I got to do is the question I have is, do I want to center that first, right? I'm not sure whether that's going to give me a good center if it's not centered properly. So I may want to center that first, which means I probably will use my graver tip to center that. All right, I get this set up like this. So I want to get my graver kind of set up so it's just touching on the inside here. And I can take out a little bit of material as it spins to center this, because I want to have a little bit of a hole there, so when I start the drilling I don't have an issue. Now I've got my times 15 glasses on. I'm not sure how close I can get to this, but I want to get close enough that I know that this is taking off the material in the center. So let's check it out. There, that should do it. We have to have a close look at that now to make sure it took the material out. Sure if it's centered, but it's pretty flat, that's for sure. I'm going to try a different graver. All right, I think I made this graver a long time ago to be super sharp in the end, so it might be a little bit better for trying to get to center here. So I'm just going to dive in here again. If I'm blocking your view, I apologize, but I've got to do it this way, so I have no choice. Pas de choisir. There, I think I did it. I'm going to have a look at this, clean it out a little bit with the Rodico, and then have a look at what kind of stuff did I do here. Is that good enough to start a drill hole? Let me have a look here. I think so. It's going to have to be. All right, time to get the drill set up. I put a little bit of cutting oil in the drill here. I can probably use a stick I used last time instead of using my finger, but I'm going to spin this and see what happens. Now the final plan, if none of this stuff works, is I'm going to cut that pinion away, drill a hole through it, make a brand new shaft for this wheel, and see what happens there. So here we go. Good news is I see material coming out, which is excellent. It's always worrying me, so a little more cutting oil. And I'm going to try not to be too brave here, because bravery in this situation usually means damage. So I'm going to try to be a little less brave this time. Last time I did fine, except the damn metal was maybe too hard or something. So this bit should be a bit easier to use because it's a bit bigger. So I'm just going to see how far down I can drill here. Drilling it out and then basically doing it really slowly. So I'm going to have to get a piece of material here because I'm going to end up with splinters, I know it. Just put that down here maybe. See if that helps at all. And more cutting oil. You can never have too much cutting oil. I'm just hoping I don't break this drill bit. Back it off. Clean it up. I'm cleaning it up with my finger, which is probably not a good idea, but. And then more cutting oil. More cutting oil. There we go. How far down? How far in am I right now? I'd like to go in quite a ways, actually. Pull it back. Clean it up. I know I'm going to get a splinter. I just know it. And then more cutting oil. Yes, you got it. More cutting oil. You're getting the live play-by-play here. It's going to be a very long video, and it's going to show my failures too, which is never good when people call me and say, would you like to do some watchmaking? I'm like, let me see if I can fail at this. Clean it up. More cutting oil. You can never have too much cutting oil, by the way. This stuff is superfluous. Let's see how far this goes in here. It's not bad. That, my friends, might be all I need. Let me have a look. This technique I just invented, so we'll see how well this works. Let me see how deep that goes. That is deep enough to reshaft this. If I go any deeper, I'm risking the pivot on the other side. So we're not going to go any deeper than that. And so that's cut. Now I've got to find a nice little shaft I can friction fit in there, and we'll try that out. So as holes go, that's a pretty damn good one. I gotta admit, I didn't do too bad a job there. And my intent was to use this metal, right, and this blued steel to put in here. Now I'm gonna have to shape it down a bit because it's basically too big. And I dropped it on the floor. So this is the blued steel here that I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do is take this out and then use the blued steel, put this in the machine here, and then friction fit this wheel on. And again, like I did last time, I'm going to throw this into some some lighter fluid to get rid of all the oils. And there you go, that's the world's nicest hole. So we'll see if I can get a shaft in there, friction fit. And I got to make sure I don't pull the wheel off of that arbor as I'm friction fitting it. So I'll fit this piece of blued steel now into this into the collet. Make sure it's loose enough to accept it. I think last time I did this I fit it from the back, so this might be a bit tricky fitting it like this. So I'll just take it from the back here and try to pick the end with the least amount of work to finish this off, to face it off. So fit it from the back like that and push it through. And then I didn't have a collet a little bigger than that. It was kind of between collets, which is a little bit of a pain, but that's a pain and a fact all at once. So now I want to make sure I've got the right size so I can work on this properly. So I'll get the old arbor out here, and that's the shaft I had made before, and that's got to go. It's got to stick into the stick in nicely. So I want to have a little bit more material than that, because that would. And that's, I really don't know how far up that pivot's going to go. Probably a lot less than that. So that might be fine. I'll just pull it out just a tad more as I remove material from it. Right. And this should be a little less risky than the previous job. There. That's good enough. And now I spin this too to make sure it's running true. I got to take the brake off here. Alright, that's pretty good there. And then you've got to reset your tool rest. I'm going to tip over tool rest here and just reset that, because I want to grave that down to the right dimension to fit in the hole of that wheel. Okay, so I really have to apologize for the length of this video, because it's way longer than I ever thought it would be. But that's, I don't want to apologize too much, because it does take a lot of work to make these videos and make this and fix watches. Now I'm using what I call the 4 flat. It's 4 millimeters on the end here, and it's flat. But I think I should sharpen this with a 300 grit plate, and just to make sure it's sharp as hell. So I'm lazy, so I'm going to eyeball the sharpening of this thing, so I don't have to get out the rig and jig and everything else. So I'm just going to eyeball this and give it a couple of scrapes here. There we go. And you can see a little bit of the black part of the carbide tip coming out. So as you sharpen it. So what I want to do now is I'm going to be removing material and then friction fitting it, right? So I'll remove, I know it's not fitting at all right now, and if I screw this up, there's no big issue. I should face this off first though. Let me think. Should I face that off? I should really face that off, and I can't face it off with this particular graver. Let's take some material off it anyway to start off with. Alright, so I took a little material off, and then the next thing to do is to just see if it's close at all when I friction fit it. And I'm holding this really lightly because I don't want to push the other part back. Yeah, I'm going to face this off so I have a really nice clean face. There, I kind of eyeball sharpen this one too, so I just want to face this off on the end. It's moved, which I don't like, so make sure that's nice and tight. There we go. There, that's good. That's called facing off the part. And then I can just clean that up a little bit like this with Rodico, and then I'm going to take a little bit more material off now, and not too much because I don't want this thing to go bad on me. I'm going to take some material off on this side first. And as you're graving it, you kind of look for inconsistencies here. I don't mind it being not completely smooth, because when you fit the part in, you want to make sure that it's fitting perfectly, but a little roughness isn't bad. It's not going in yet. I think it's got a ways to go, actually. A ways to go, folks. A ways to go. So I could use a different graver that might work a little faster, but what the hell. And patience is a virtue. So I might speed this up when I'm doing the video. I don't have much to say, so I think I'll just speed that up. A little more off with a different graver. Where's my other graver? See how sharp this is on the other side. I've got to sharpen this up a little bit on this side here. Be more precise. And then I'm going to fit the part again, just to make sure I'm not too far out. Oh, I got to sharpen that graver. It's getting really close here. So I don't want to take too much off and screw myself. And I'll test fit it again. Like I said, if I screw this up, I can start all over again, so it's not a big risk. It's getting very, very close, but no cigar yet, folks. No cigar yet. Close, but no cigar. You got to make sure you just don't rush it. I'm definitely going to speed this up and just talk about it, because it's taking way too much time. Look at the hole size and look at the thing. Man, that is so close. It's almost perfect. Except I got to take a little bit more material off. Good golly, Miss Molly. Alright, here we go again. Wrong graver. Bit of a grave situation. Try again. That's what I call an almost fit. This is like when you're making a balance staff, and if you screw up the roller table size, that's the hardest one, is actually doing the roller table, because it's so touchy. This is no less touchier, but come on, get in that hole. You know where you belong. Even more. All right. Is that going to do it? Is that going to do it? Hope everybody out there watching this is enjoying the pain. Oh, it's starting to fit. It's just starting to fit. All right. I'm looking at the actual angle here to make sure I haven't screwed that up too, right? The thing about metal is it either fits or it doesn't. That's the problem. It doesn't sort of get pliable and fit. It's either fitting or it isn't. And I know that I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite in there, so. Alright, so there. Now I've got myself partial fit here. And I got to take a little bit off on the edge to get it a bit deeper. I know it's deeper. I might go to my other graver because it's a little more precise, and that way I don't take a giant chunk of stuff off, but I will be gluing this in place for sure. Seeing how deep it goes, and I've got a needle here so I can look at how deep this hole is, compared to how far down it's going. Oh yeah, it's going. It's got a lot more distance to go, folks. A lot more distance to go. I'm going to get my other graver here and see if this gives me a little bit more precision on removing some of this material here. So I know I got a little bit of a slope there in the piece of metal, so I just want this thing to fit nicely. Nice and snug, and then tap that in so it's oh, there we go. So that I got snugness here as I rotated this. So now it's snug in there, nicely rotated. So I want to cut this off, but I'd also love to use the I think what I'll do is do what I did before. So I take this out, right? So it's not to take it out. Let me see how far that went in when it's snugged. Yeah, I think that's nice because that's going to go in about like that. So what I want to do is I'm going to part this, and then I'm going to remount it on the lathe, and then I'm going to snug this in. So get this completely out of the way. So I know I've got myself a good part. I'm also going to shave some material off near the end where I know the pivot needs to be, right? And if I look at my old part here, I know how long the shaft was on the old part. Let's see if I can stick that in and have a look at it. There's the old shaft, folks. So that would be around there, and then the pivot on the end. So yeah, I want to give it a good part. Pardon? And do that. So I'm going to part this off. And just before it falls, I'm going to stick a little piece of Rodico on the end so it doesn't fall off on me. But first I'll shave down a little bit more material off it. Alright, there's my part right there. So first thing I'm going to do is clean the wheel off with alcohol. I don't have to worry about this part, but make sure that wheel's got no cutting fluid left in it. So there's the wheel and the new shaft. And I'm going to be putting that shaft into the lathe so I can grip that thing so I can get the wheel on. I'm going to make sure I don't turn it using the wheel itself because it could come undone from the actual the shaft that's in there right now, because you can see how this is kind of knurled or whatever you want to call it. Where's that camera? There it is. You can see how that's like that, so I don't want that to come undone. So I got to be very careful when I do this. So first thing I do is I got to mount this piece of whatever. I got to mount this onto the collet and get a grip on it. So I think that's the right collet I've got here. Got a few of them, but this is the one that's the smallest one. So I think that's the one. And I'm going to use a piece of Rodico to grab it so I don't lose it. Right? That's the best way of doing it. And I want to grab it on the rough end. That's the end I kind of parted off. And then the other end is there to be grabbed. Alright. Now is that? Just grab this end piece and see if it's going to move at all. Oh, that's good there. So now I'm going to tighten the hell out of it. There. So that's tight as heck. And so now when I put this on, that should stay on. And not like last time where it was crooked. So more important thing right now is to get a drink of water. Alright, now I'm going to friction fit this wheel here. And hopefully it's not too loose or too tight. You know what? I think I gotta. I'm not sure. No, that's not bad there, I think. So what I need to do is grab it now. Maybe with this here, and then turn it. I think I'll just take this off completely and then put it into the clamp here. I don't want to put stress on the wheel itself. There. I make sure I grab the pinion and nothing but the pinion. Now, is that crooked or is it straight or what? Oh, that's not bad. Now I had before I used this to knock it ever so slightly. And I think I'm going to do that again. Because that's right on the shaft, but I don't want to break anything, so I'm just going to just slightly knock it. I'm not going to knock it like I did last time. But I want this to be nicely secured. There. That should do. That's friction fit now, so I can loosen this up and just grab the whole unit very carefully. There we go. And there it is. That's the wheel with the new shaft on it. Now the tricky part, as they say, is to cut. I need to cut this to the right size so that I have a second hand as well. Of course I dropped it, but God bless America, I dropped it right on top of the mat. There we go. So I got to set myself up for that now. So, and I think I should just let this dry for half an hour, go have lunch, and then come back, because if I try to work on it now, it could be trouble. So we'll come back in a sec. Alright, I've got the shaft in there and I'm going to work on the pivot here. I think it might be too short. I think the shaft might be too short, but I'm going to do it anyway. And with any luck it works, because I'm trying to work on the pivot that the second hand will go on. It looks like there's not a lot of room, so I'll try this, and if it doesn't work I'll have to redo that shaft. And the size of the hole is 0.23. Now I use this tool here to measure the actual hole size. It's got to be 0.23. So I don't have a 0.23, but I do have a 0.24. I recall when I measured it, it was 0.24. I decided to bring it down to 0.23 to give it some side shake. Alright, so that pivot is now the right size. So I'm just going to burnish it just a little bit here so I can smoothen it out a bit with this burnisher. So make sure I take the sharp edge of it. And we're done. Now the question is the fit. Will this fit nicely? So we're going to see if this fits. I'm going to take this out and show you a close-up of it so you can see what we have here. And that's what we got right there. Look at that. There we go. There it is, and that's a second-hand pivot. Now what I don't know if that's long enough. If that's not long enough, I've got to pull that out of the shaft, out of the where that pinion is, because it's pretty deep in there, and then I'm going to start all over again. But let's just assume it's long enough, and that'll be the end of my video for today. And that's how you kind of adapt put a shaft on a new fourth wheel. So that's it. Thanks for watching my videos, and stay tuned.